So, I was not one of those little girls who dreamed of growing up and finding a man and getting married and having children. And, when I actually came to meet this most significant relationship in my life at 24, we both agreed that getting married was just not cool. And we didn't want to do it. He is the son of divorce attorneys. Three of them who have all remarried. And, my own parents were divorced, and we kind of agreed that it just wasn't for us. And we had a very good relationship. We moved overseas together and, functioned very well as a couple. In fact, I found out kind of partway through our first year of being together that I was the first person that he dated for longer than 6 weeks. And we moved in together after a month of being with each other. And so, we were pretty committed. And, after we'd been together about 5 or 6 years, and I'd been over to the States to meet his family because he's from California, I started to get this little niggle that maybe I might want to get married. And it was really difficult for me to accept because in my family growing up, it was better not to change your mind. It was better just to stick with your opinion. And if somebody was being contrary, you would just dig your heels in harder and, stick to your guns. And I found myself doing this, not with anyone else, but internally, being it was almost like this angry internal dialogue about the fact that I started to feel like maybe I wanted to get married, and then also being mad with myself for wanting something so stupid. Because I thought it was stupid at the time. And so I got into this internal shame cycle about this emerging desire. And I kept quiet about it for a couple of years because I knew that he did not want to get married. And I didn't want it to be something that was like a deal breaker because, we loved each other very much. And, one time, probably a couple years after I'd first started feeling this thing, I came across, I was having a conversation with my, mother-in-law, but, his mother. And she said to me, well, what do I call you? Because if I call you his girlfriend, that doesn't sound like enough. And I sort of said, well, I don't know. In Australia, we say partner if it's kind of more committed. And it really triggered me off. Then that night we had this conversation, which turned into a fight because I had been bottling up my feelings for all this time. And it turned into this fight of it hurts that maybe you don't want to marry me. On some level it's well, aren't I good enough? And after that, we could have put it away again for another couple of years. And it was about 2 years ago that I'd started having these feelings again and that internal battle of, oh, I want this, oh, you're stupid for wanting that. And I had a dream. And in the dream, I was helping out at his wedding to somebody else. And it was a weird thing because in the dream, she was his ex-wife and they were getting remarried. He doesn't have an ex-wife in real life. And he had said to me in the dream, it's okay though, we can still be together. It's polyamory, and I was like, that's cool because, we love each other and whatever. But I had that same feeling of hurt, he would choose somebody else. And in the morning, I was I kind of woke up from this dream and was in that kind of groggy haze and crawled onto the couch and was just oh, I had this dream and you were going to remarry your ex-wife and I'd just been away for a week for Christmas, so it was our first morning catching up together, and so he's comforting me and, holding me while I'm blubbering about how much I hate myself for wanting to get married, and he says, well, I've been thinking about it. And it turns out that he had also had a dream about marriage, and after 10 years of being together, he decided that it was something that maybe he would like to do with me as well. And I had not anticipated how emotional it would be because suddenly I'd gone from this story of never getting married to getting married. And that whole day I was just alternating between crying and laughing and suddenly having all these opinions about flowers and dresses and things that I just had not thought about before. And the catch is that he is very introverted. And so he didn't want to tell anybody that we were going to get married because he insisted it should just be about us. And, you know, his version of not telling anybody is like literally 1 or 2 people. My version of telling nobody is like talking it over with 30 of my closest friends. But you know what? 6 weeks later, we decided we would just book a date and go get married at the registry. And it was this sort of such an odd experience to kind of go from an extreme of like hating something to doing the thing. And, you know, as we were there with 8 of our friends, because, you know, we had no money because we hadn't planned on getting married, so we just booked like the cheapest, smallest room at the Treasury building, but it's really beautiful. Top tip for anybody. It's only like $400. And, you know, as I was there holding his hands and watching him weep as we went through the ceremony, I just realised that, you know, that really was what it was about. Like, that's the experience I wanted. It isn't the title of him being a husband or me being a wife, but it's actually like walking through this ritual with another person who I care about so much. And I'm really glad that I did it. I think that's it. Thanks.